We are in week 5, and this is BCA-101. This would be day 12, Monday. Word processing topics. We did a bunch of work with spreadsheets, talked briefly about completion, and starting unit 3 already. Word processing. The other day we talked about, the whole idea of word processing is being able to organize words, images, pretty much based on text, okay, for information. And nowadays we need to be able to distribute that a variety of ways. So when you're creating a link, either in a website or in your Google Doc or even in your Word document, and you have this long link to information, that would be your URL, which everybody should know what it is. You can take that long link and create some text that describes the link, and then you can tie the link to the text. For example, I could have the word student performance, and I then can relate that to this URL. That's really important to do. It's easier to read this. You know what it is. People don't have to mess with this long URL. If it is long, it doesn't have to be long, but mess with it. And then for those people who are using a reader, maybe they're blind, or they have other reasons why they have to use a reader. Those people then, when the reader is going through, if the reader hits this long URL, it has a hard time telling the blind person what it says. But when it sees student performance, it can easily say, yeah, this is student performance, and then it can easily distinguish that it's a link. So it can say student performance will link you to another location. All right. Yeah, we learned that hypertext transfer protocol. We talked a little bit about that. It can move you to another area. A couple other review points here. Make sure margins, you change margins for the whole document. Some people are using lots of tabs to arrange stuff. You can actually put tab stops in. You can put a center tab stop, a left or a right tab stop. You can even put a tab stop based on a decimal point, so it'll line up the decimal points and so forth. What people use instead of tabs, a lot of times they'll just use a table feature to arrange their things. Last thing here, I think some students just are not really good at following details, either in reading instructions, doing the work, etc., etc. And that is something you can improve on. You can become more detailed oriented, but you would have to literally work at it. It's more of an attitude thing than a lack of skill. So when I say an attitude thing, you'd have to decide to work at being more detailed. If you don't want to decide to do that, then you won't be able to do it. The word processing document, we talked about multitasking. Some students in the document, when they wrote their report at the end, they said, oh yeah, I can multitask. I do these things while doing these things, and I really can't study unless I have music and stuff on. I agree there are some things, depending on the task that you're accomplishing, there's a lot of things you can do. I listen to podcasts while I mow use the snow blower, walk the dog. Yeah, I don't have any problem walking, chewing gum, watching the dog, and listening to some cool information on a podcast. But when you start doing more complex things, things that use a different part of your brain, then it might not be good for your brain to have to switch from a complex task to another task and then switch back. You know, your brain can only work on one thing at a time. I mean, it does it amazingly fast. And even the processor in the computer only works on one thing at a time. It just switches so fast. But the computer's quote-unquote brain doesn't get damaged from switching. Where a human brain, you can lose the ability to stay focused on a complex problem over time based on some research that was in the article. We have had students research this, and there is lots of material that backs the idea of being careful about multitasking or not doing it at all. A lot of good comments on students' performance. A lot of places they mention grades aren't the end all. And that's something I believe. And they talk about failing is okay as long as you improve after it. And I was surprised some students, if their hours were correct, they spend a lot of hours on devices doing things that are not related directly to learning or even healthy things in their life, in my opinion. So, in terms of failure, you can't be afraid to try things and see what happens, especially in a learning environment. That's really important. Otherwise, how you learn? I mean, how many times does somebody fall down before they learn how to walk? Wouldn't it be amazing if students had the same persistence as little kids in learning how to do something? All right. The other thing, too, on learning is to look at any type of criticism might come your way or comments. You really need to review the comments that I put in your work so you don't repeat your failures or mistakes. We got started on spreadsheets. Cell reference, you know, a spreadsheet has a column. In some cases you can talk about columns and rows, and we talk about these cells in their cell references. Okay, they either change or a cell reference can stay the same. The term we use, they can be relative, they're relative to where they were, or you can mark them absolute so they stay the same and never change in spreadsheets. This is a key concept. Let me overemphasize that. Key concept. You need to understand the difference between relative and absolute addressing in order to use a spreadsheet efficiently. Especially when it comes to data analysis. When we add a value in a cell, and it's just a constant value, then we use that value, let's say later on, to do some calculations. We want to be able to go back and change that value and see how the calculations changed in order to do data analysis. It is one of the most important parts of spreadsheets. Beyond just storing the data, can we analyze the data? So we have relative and absolute, so you understand the differences here, so you can develop a spreadsheet quickly and then be able to do data analysis on it. We talked about a range of cells. You can list one cell and another cell, and then this represents the range. It could be a column, it could be this, it could be a row of cells. Okay, and then you can do things to the range of cells. The example we did is we did a sum of the range of cells. We finished up spreadsheets doing two things. We started assignment 1 in class together, and then in there we diverted from doing that work. We applied the things that we have above here. We applied those all. Okay? Also, assignment 1 has all the objectives, all the things you should be able to do in a spreadsheet. And then from there, from assignment 1, we went and created or added a new sheet, and we did a function, a payment function for getting a loan. And then from that payment function, I'm going to do one last thing here. We did a little data analysis with it. Well, that's it. Key things. Let me add. I can just add a page here. Up. Okay. Yeah, let me do that. Wednesday, skills-based assessment on word processing. You should be working on Unit 3. Unit 2 should be done. I guess with the exception of finishing word processing. So Unit 2 is pretty much finished up on Wednesday. You should be working on Unit 3. Video, outline, work. Let me see if I can write that a little better. Video, outline, work, and spreadsheets. Getting started on the assignments. That's it.